Hey everyone, and welcome back to Founders Outlook, the show where entrepreneurial dreams meet reality. I'm Juliet Ochu, and today we are getting inside scoop on another incredible founder's journey. Whether you're building your own business, thinking about starting one, or just love hearing how great ideas come to life, you're in the right place. Let's jump in and see businesses through a founder's eyes.
When I started that, I really, like many founders, I had the passion, but I didn't have the know-how.
What is that biggest misconception they have been, about PR coming to you, or what can you really have done?
We sit down, we take a look at your business and where you're finding any kind of traction, and we can help you understand that and then also create a system.
What role did visibility and presentation play in your own journey? Okay?
When I got started, it was just me trying to figure out how can I provide value to my community, to people around me, because that's where I got started.
What is that one piece of PR advice you wish someone had given you when you were building your first company? My next guest turned $6 in her bank account into a six-figure PR agency in under a year. She's the founder and CEO of French Press Public Relations, and she has landed her clients to feature in Vogue, Forbes, Good Morning America, and the New York Times. And here's what makes her different. She's not just a PR strategist, she's a former founder who has lived the struggle and the pivots and come back. So she doesn't just get your story out there, she understands it. This is Founders Outlook, the platform where founders share the real journey behind building their business. Please welcome visibility strategist, entrepreneur, and the owner, and the woman who changed the way you think about PR. She's Candice Smith. Hi, Candice. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, Juliet.
Thanks for coming. It's nice to have you on this show, and your journey is very incredible. And I would want you on your own terms and on your own words to introduce yourself and your business to the audience.
Sure. Yeah. So as you mentioned in that lovely introduction, I don't come to PR or communications through traditional methods, whether by working for an agency or going to college for PR and communications. I fell into it. Actually through the work that I was doing as a serial social entrepreneur. So after college, because I was the first person on both sides of my family to go to and graduate from college, I was very interested in education. And so I went in to Teach for America right after I graduated. And that gave me the idea for my first business, because as a teacher, teaching ninth grade English, I was just one of me against many students in the classroom. And so, having a 1 to 25 or a 1 to 30 student ratio, was very difficult for me to connect with the students that needed more help or the students that needed additional enrichment, right? So I felt like I was constantly trying to meet the needs of everybody in the middle. And so the students that were up here weren't getting the help that they needed to push them further, and the students that were down here weren't getting the help that they needed to push them up, right? So I founded my first company after that experience called Scholar Advance, and focused on creating a digital curriculum. This was in 2013, creating a digital curriculum for teachers anywhere in the country and anywhere in the world to be able to connect with students in the classroom, in schools, and help close their learning gaps on a 1 to 4, a 1 to 6, or a 1 to 8 teaching ratio. So we did everything distance learning well in advance of 2020 when the whole world shut down and had to pivot. We started doing that in 2013. So to try and close those learning gaps. So that was my first business. And when I started that, I really, like many founders, I had the passion, but I didn't have the know-how, right, to actually run the business. And so through that experience and through starting some of the other businesses that I was a part of after that first company, I started to learn how to represent myself, how to tell my story. And that was how I started in public relations with French Press PR, because I was getting pretty successful at telling my story to others and having them share it as well. I started getting questions from other founders, and they were themselves asking, how do I get featured? How do I get visible? What do I do? And I realized there was a big gap, especially for many founders that felt like they were ready to tell their story, but maybe there were some pieces missing, right? And so that's where French Press came about. So we focus and have focused very much on entrepreneurs and founder-led businesses that are at inflection points, whether it's the launch, whether it's the scale, right? The scale up is still just as vulnerable a point as a launch because you are trying to jump to the next level, right? And so you're trying to scale up your team, scale up your resources, scale up your service or your product, and all of those things need to go in tandem with the messaging. And so we work on supporting founder-led businesses, especially mission-driven ones, in the work that they do so that they can tell their story to the right people at the right time.
Nice. It's interesting how you mentioned, your journey and what led you to pivot into the PR industry. Would you say that being a founder kind of shapes the way you run your agency? Having that past experience before, starting this PR company, would you say it contributed to the success of this? Because you're just one, how many years into it now?
Yeah, great question. I think to me, I didn't know that there was a difference initially.
Okay.
When I got started, it was just me trying to figure out how can I provide value to my community, to people around me, because that's where I got started, right? I didn't have agency contacts. I didn't have big clients that I'd worked with previously. It was just people were asking me, people who I knew were saying, how did you get into Oprah? How did you get into Forbes? How did you get
Okay.
into Business Insider? And so I started by mentoring, and mentoring led to my first clients. And so for me, I was always used to wearing a lot of hats.
Okay.
With that, when I started to advise my clients and people that I was mentoring on their messaging strategy, it was always baking in all of the other things. I would say, well, wait a minute, you're doing all of these things and wearing all these hats, and yet, you're trying to bring people to you, but your website isn't done yet. Do you have a full marketing funnel? Do you
Yeah.
know where customers are going to go
Yeah.
after? Like, oh wait, you don't even have an intake form. Hang on a minute. Step back a second before we start amplifying our voice and pushing
Mhm.
things out there, right? So I was able to see where people and founders specifically were with their passion, and they're like, the world needs to know. I'm like, absolutely, but let's make sure that they know how to get in touch with you after they know,
Yeah.
so that they know that your product is ready, right? Things like that. So um, I think for me, it felt natural
Yeah.
because it was something that I'd done.
Yeah.
And so those services started to get baked into the services that we provided was, just wearing a couple of those hats and saying, here, let me take that hat from you. I'm going to put that on for a second. And let's make sure that we're actually aligned here so
Mhm.
that when we do put out a PR campaign, you have what you need to be successful, right? Because PR and visibility, and I would say marketing too, it amplifies what's already working
Yeah.
in your business,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't just, you have an idea and then you put it out there and then bam, you're rich and famous,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't work that way. You have to have some sort of traction. You have to have some sort of movement in your business. And so if you haven't done the legwork and ironed out your business plan and made sure that you have the right message that's going to the right audience,
Yep.
that you have the right product distribution, you have your marketing funnel laid out and your retargeting and all of these other things, that when people come to you and they're in your orbit, they can stay in your orbit and become either repeat customers or get the
And
multi-touch,
convert them. Yep.
right? Because PR only brings them to you,
Yep.
doesn't keep them.
No, no.
So
Funny,
I was
most
go ahead.
founders, they don't know they need PR. When you speak with most founders, they think PR is just press release. What is that biggest misconception they have about PR coming to you or working through your door? Because most of them don't even know the work you put behind and the tests they can get out of, reaching out to a PR agency.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, especially, I'd say a lot of founders don't need PR in the traditional sense, right? They think that they need to get into, and I hear the same things over and over. We would just love Forbes. We would just love New York Times. I'm like, yeah, we all would love that. right? That sounds great. But what does that mean? What does that really mean for your business? What does that mean for you to get visibility in that place at a specific time, right? So, especially with AI right now, visibility is coming at a premium. We live in an attention-driven economy these days, right? So what we're fighting for now more than ever is attention. And because AI is making the creation of content easier and faster, that doesn't necessarily mean it's better quality. And in fact, it's mostly worse quality from what I'm seeing. And so founders are often thinking, I need to do everything for everyone and be everywhere all at once. And that's what's going to bring me success. And so I need to get into these names because these names equal success. And that's not true anymore. If you had asked me maybe 5 years ago, that might have been more true. But now traditional media is no longer as trusted of a resource. And so, people's attention is becoming fragmented. You see a lot of trust in traditional media fading. People don't open up the newspaper anymore or even open up their phone and go to the front page of the New York Times to read something. So how do you know that if you get into the New York Times, you are necessarily going to get this big snow? Exactly, right? So these days, when we think about PR, and we're actually shifting this, especially within French press, we're talking more about visibility holistically. And what does that mean? So visibility for me, in the way that I define it for folks that I talk to, is visibility is the intersection and the system that combines marketing and PR. So marketing is the story that you tell the world about yourself and your brand. And PR is the story that others tell the world your brand.
Okay.
And so when you combine those two,
Yeah.
that's visibility. And so to pull back for a second, we're not just looking to be visible in traditional media. I actually call it AMORE. So there's 5 pillars where you can be visible beyond just the earned media. So A stands for authority. Those are your authority channels, anywhere where you can share your message, your expertise on someone else's platform. Podcast interviews, at conferences, op-eds, right? Providing your expertise on someone else's platform. M is for marketing, and that's a bit of a misnomer, but it can't be AMORE, it's AMORE. So M is for paid marketing. So that's going to be boosting posts, ads, commercials, retargeting, all of that lies under that channel. O is for owned media, and that's all of your channels that you own. So that would be your website, maybe your blog or your Substack, your podcast, anywhere, even your social media posts. That's where you control your message. R is for relationships. And I think this is the most underrated form of visibility because we don't realize as founders and entrepreneurs that the majority of the traction that we get is due to our interacting with other people. So how are we being visible and showing up consistently? And then E is for earned media, and that's traditional. So all 5 of those today are very important to drive visibility and not just getting into the Forbes, the Time Magazine, Oprah, what have you. So that's what we need to focus on holistically.
Yeah. And when they get this visibility, what does this actually do for their business? When they put their business out there, how does it help their business?
Yeah, great question. So it's going to be different for every business. And that's because not everybody should be pursuing all 5 pillars at once, right? And I recommend generally no more than 2 or 3, right?
Okay.
You should be prioritizing because trying to do all 5, you are spreading yourself way too thin. So think about what is actually driving change, driving traction, bringing customers to you. Is it when you show up on other people's platforms? Is it when you are connecting with people and building relationships or partnerships or influencers and getting them to become champions of your brand? Or is it when you get featured in PR? What are those things that are actually driving change for you? So when you get visibility and specifically when you are creating a system, I like to think of it as the difference between being proactive versus being reactive. So being reactive might be, I know somebody and we've built a great relationship and they come to me and say, hey, I have this conference. I would love for you to speak at that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, great. That's amazing. Fantastic. And so I go and I speak and I've said yes to this thing, but I have reacted to it. I didn't set up a system to say, okay, so how do I make sure that when I go to that conference, I have a call to action for people. I have my business cards ready so that people can find me. I am trying to find who's going there so that I can meet up with them when I'm there. I follow up with people when I get home, right? What are those things that you're doing to ensure that you get the highest return on your effort and investment, right? So visibility done successfully is not just saying yes to things that come, but proactively planning for how you're
Things
going
to
to
get out of that.
exactly.
Okay. And now I have a business. I don't even know which of the pillars that my business needs. Is
Mhm.
this what I get from coming to you? Do you study my business? What is your process like, or your onboarding stage is like for me to get that clarity? That's maybe what I need is relationship connecting on going to networking events or to speak on go to podcasting or speaking on podcasts. I don't know. How do I get that clarity on what my business actually needs to put me there to bring that visibility to it?
Yeah. So definitely coming to an agency like mine,
Mhm.
we sit down, we take a look at your business and where you're finding any kind of traction, and we can help you understand that and then also create a system for your visibility and start planning and pitching to get more opportunities. However, I did also create a quiz called the VizDev Framework.
Mhm.
So that's VIZDEV uh, for visibility development. So the VizDev framework is a series of questions that tries to understand where you're at in your business right now. What are the factors that are affecting how you can show up, right? So some of the variables that affect that are your core authority, right? So when people come to you and they find you, what do they trust first? Do they have to build trust in a person, such as yourself, or do they have to build trust in the brand, right? So do they trust you, or do they trust a brand or a product or whatever that thing is in order to buy? So that very much determines how you're going to show up. If they trust a product or a brand first, you're probably not going to be spending a lot of time on podcasts, building out your thought leadership and spending a lot of time on your authority building, right? But if you are a person-driven core authority, then absolutely people need to hear your voice. They need to hear your opinions in order to build trust in you and want to work with your brand. So that's one example of the variables. The others are how much decision-making authority do you have? Can you decide on your own? Or do you have to report to people above you? For example, if you have VC money, right? Before you can be visible, you might have some guardrails around what you're allowed to say, and you might have to ask for permission in order to share certain things. Um, the other two variables that we focus on are your visibility goals. So that is your launch. Are you launching something new to a new audience, or are you optimizing? Are you scaling something? That's also going to change how you position yourself in the market. And then finally, we have your resources. Are you constrained by your resources? Which means that if you say yes to one thing, you're going to have to say no to something else. Or do you have expansive resources? Do you have a team that can support you so that you can delegate? Do you have a good amount of budget that you can spend on something that's going to allow you to do things like paid advertisements, right? Someone who's constrained might not have the budget for paid advertisements.
Yeah.
So all of those different variables working together will determine what channels you should be pursuing. So if you take that quiz, and I can share the link with you,
Yeah.
it's bit.ly/VizDev, but if you take that quiz, it will actually give you what channels you should be focusing on.
Is the link to the quiz on your website?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Mhm.
Please, can you call out your website so that if the audience are
Yes,
interested, they can quickly jump in and do that. Yeah.
absolutely. So our website is www.frenchpresspr PR.com.
So many founders try to do their PR themselves. They feel maybe it's a waste of money. And like you mentioned, with the invent of AI, everybody think they have the superpower to do everything, right? What
Right.
do they almost always get wrong when they do this themselves?
Yeah. So I'd say when founders do their own PR, and I don't discourage founders from doing their own PR. It's a question of whether or not you have the time, you have the capacity, you have the resources, and you have the know-how, right? Because as founders, um, we are all time poor. We are all strapped in one way or another. Very few of us have unlimited resources that we can pull from. And so you want to make sure that when you are going to be more visible, and let's say you're going for traditional earned media, you want to make sure that you have everything ready to go. So you know who you're reaching out to, what you're reaching out to them for, how to talk about yourself, and basically how to provide value for that end customer, right? That end audience member. So founders very often will think that just because they exist, people will come to them. And that's not so.
Okay.
Just because you build it does not mean that people will come, right?
Yeah.
Again, we're going to this attention economy.
Mm-hmm.
What can you do or say to make sure that your ideal audience member stops the scroll, focuses in on you, right? And says, wait a minute, I do need that. This is a pain point that I'm struggling with, right?
Mm-hmm.
How can you communicate efficiently, quickly, and effectively so that they know that you know how to solve their problem,
Okay.
right? So there's another layer to that when it comes to PR as well, because again, marketing is a story that you tell the world, but PR adds that other layer of you have to tell someone else so they can tell the world about you. And so with PR, you have to make sure that your message to a journalist, let's say, is super clear and very understandable and gives that value quickly so that the journalist doesn't keep flipping through and think, oh, I get 100 pitches a day. This sounds like everything else, right?
Yeah.
You have to be able to express yourself quickly and clearly. And that's something that a lot of founders struggle with.
Nice. And I'll try to draw this closer to you now. As a Miss Latina and first generation college student, what role did visibility and presentation play in your own journey? Because you're also a founder and you also have your journey. What role has this visibility played in your own journey?
Yeah. So, oh gosh, for
Sorry.
me, no, it's a beautiful question. It's layered, right? Because it
Yeah, because
is really,
but this is what you're doing for people who want to understand what it has, the impact this disability has had on your own journey, because you've actually had a great journey over how many decades, over a decade, building your first company and now this. So what role has it played on your journey?
yeah. I mean, when we drive at visibility
Mhm.
at our core, it's a question of identity. It's who we are, and we're sharing it with the world. And there's a lot of vulnerability in that, right? There's a reason why so many founders face imposter syndrome and analysis paralysis because we're putting a part of ourselves out there in the world, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'd say for me, that going back to my own identity as a mixed race Latina, I mean, I'm I'm half white. I'm pretty white facing, right?
Yeah.
And so if my mom was standing here, I actually just dropped her off at the airport like an
Mhm.
hour ago.
Yeah.
She's like the darker skinned version of me.
Okay.
And she has all my melanin.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to feel invisible
Mm.
as a white presenting Latina, right? It's very easy to feel like, I don't know if I have this card. Can I play this card? Like, is this me? Do I fit in?
Yeah.
Right? Do I fit in? I don't have, I don't necessarily, like, I do a lot of code switching, right? I get called out for that by my family.
Mhm.
I'm the gringa. And so with my own appearance, I faced a lot of identity crisis growing up about how to present myself and how to be visible to the world. And so, even going to and through college, I felt different. And I felt as though I had something to prove, and also that I wasn't enough, right? And that played a big part in my journey of learning how to tell my story and learning how to share my passion, what I thought was valuable, and what value I thought I could give to others, and how I could give and how I could give back. That became very important to me. And I think that's where my love of storytelling came in, because it becomes a way to connect with other people, and to find, not everybody you tell a story to is going to connect with you, and that's fine. But you will find the people that connect with you. And being visible and storytelling is very much a part of that journey. And I think, especially as I became more comfortable with being visible and putting myself out there, and then in putting other companies and other founders out there and helping them tell their story, that helped me heal a lot of my own identity crisis that I had when I was a child, because I learned how to tell a story in a way
That people around you can relate to. Yeah.
that they can relate to. Exactly.
Nice. So, what is that one piece of PR advice you wish someone had given you when you were building your first company?
Yeah. You don't have to be 100% ready to start telling your story. You don't
Great.
have to be 100% ready to connect with other people around you. Build those relationships sooner rather than later.
Very good advice. Is there anything about your business that you have not asked you want to share with the audience?
I would say, just in terms of visibility these days, I would make sure that when you are trying to be visible, that you're remembering to keep your humanity in the equation. There's so much AI, and it's almost like we're putting blind trust in it. Many people that I see, and it's, even though it's become easier to tell stories, and I definitely advocate for people using AI to help them tell their story. Don't let it replace you and who you are.
You should still be
Um,
unique and genuine. Yep.
exactly.
Be
So I'd
yourself.
say that for me is one of the most important pieces. It may feel like AI is cheaper and can replace, many of the different aspects of your business that help you be visible, but don't let it, because you're going to lose something really crucial, and that becomes the humanity of the brand.
Thank you so much, Candice, for sharing your story and for coming to Founders Outlook. We wish you success in your business and hope to see you some other time. Thank you, viewers. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day. Bye.